Lesson 52, determining the equation of a line given 2 points. We can graph the line with just a point and slope. So, for example 1, it says, graph a line that has a slope of 2 and passes through 3, 4. Well, you know that whenever we're dealing with slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, we start by graphing this. We want to graph the y-intercept first, and then we graph the slope, right? Start with the point that we know, and then we graph the slope. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start with the point that we know, and then we're going to graph the slope. So 3, 4, I'm going to go over 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3, and up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is my first point. My slope is 2, which is 2 over 1. So slope is always rise over run, so I'm going to rise 2, 1, 2, run 1. Rise 2, run 1. Rise 2, run 1. Okay, I could also fall 2 and then go left 1 because negative over negative gives me a positive. Okay, so this is my line. Oh, it's close. Okay, for what they've given me here. Start with the point, then graph your slope. Okay, same thing on this one. It says graph a line with the slope 0 and passes through negative 1, 4. So I want you to try and do this one on your own paper. I want you to pause the video and try and graph this on your own. So we're going to start with graphing the point first. So from the origin, I'm going to go left 1 and up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is my point, and it says that I have a slope of 0. Now, I hope that you remember this is one of our special slopes. There's a slope of 0 and undefined slope. And if we have a slope of 0, I hope you remember that it means that you're going to have a horizontal line. Okay? If you don't remember that, you could graph this the same way by putting it over 1. And if I do that, I'm not going to rise any because I have 0 for my rise, and I'm going to run 1. Rise none, run 1. Rise none, run 1. So you can see that my line would be straight, and it would be horizontal through the point negative 1, 4. Point slope form, which is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x sub 1, where m is a slope and x1, y1 is a point on the line. You should know x1, y1 is a point on the line because we use x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2 to find the slope sometimes. So it's just doing the same thing. If you use that point to find the slope, you use it again to plug into point slope formula. I would make sure that you have this in your notes. So, on example 2, it says write in point slope form the equation of a line that has a slope of negative 3 and passes through to negative 7. So it wants us to write it in point slope form. Okay, point slope we just saw, which was y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x sub 1. It is important that whenever you're writing something in a certain form that you start with that form so that you know what you're working with. Okay, slope, it says, is negative 3, and we know that slope is always m. And when they give us a point, we can label this x sub 1, y sub 1. So I'm going to plug in my information. Y minus y sub 1, which is negative 7. So I'm going to put that in parentheses so I don't lose a negative, equals m, which is negative 3, my slope, times the quantity of x minus x sub 1, which is 2. Now the only thing that I need to do to simplify this is I don't ever want to show this double negative, so I'm going to change it to a positive. So I have y plus 7 equals negative 3 times the quantity of x minus 2. This is my final answer. Now I want to point out some things to you. Notice that in our original equation we have negatives. Okay? That is the original form. They are to be negative. However, if you see a positive like we do here, okay, then it's because whatever you plugged in was a negative. So sometimes they're going to try and trick you and put a positive in there, and you're just going to think that that means that this one's positive and this one's negative. If they're both negative signs, then the original, they were both positives. But if one of them is a positive, then it's actually its opposite, which means it would have been a -7 there. Write the equation of a line that passes through points 15, -2, and -5, 6 in slope-intercept form. So we're going to use some things that we already know. First of all, whenever they give us 2 points and we're talking about finding slope-intercept form, I hope that the first thing that you think is, oh, I know how to find the slope. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can do this. I have x1, y1, and x2, y2. And I'm going to start both ways by finding the slope. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So when I plug that in, my y2 is 6 minus my y1 is -2 over, which is going to give me a positive here, over my x2, which is -5, minus x1, which is 15. So I end up with 6 plus 2, which is 8, over -5 minus 15 is -20. So when I reduce that, I can reduce both of these by 4. So 4 goes into 8 2 times, and 4 goes into -20 -5 times. So my slope is -2/5. Okay, this is my M. Now, I'm going to start by using the form that we just talked about, which was, I'm going to bring it down a little bit, point slope. So if I use point slope, okay, I have y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. So y minus y1, which was a -2, equals m, which is -2/5, and then I have x minus x1, which is 15. Okay, so now I want it in slope-intercept form, so I can change this to make that happen. I know that these double negatives are going to give me a positive, so I have y plus 2 equals, and over here I can distribute this slope to everything inside the parentheses. So I have -2/5 x, and then negative times a negative is going to give me a positive. 2 times 15 is, I'll put this over 1, 2 times 15 is 30, over 5 gives me 6. For it to be in slope-intercept form, I want y by itself, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And I better move this down just a little bit. And I have y equals -2/5 x. 6 minus 2 is 4. Slope-intercept form. Okay, I used point slope to get me to intercept form. Slope-intercept form, excuse me. And the other way we could have done this was to start with slope-intercept. Okay, and if we did that, we would write y equals mx plus b, because we know that this is slope-intercept form. And I already know my slope is -2/5, okay, which I'm going to put in parentheses. And my x and y here, I can just use a point. So I'm going to use the same point that I used up above, which was that x1, y1. So instead of y, I'm going to put -2 equals, instead of x, I'm going to put 15. I don't know b, but I need to find b to be able to put it in slope-intercept form. So I have -2 equals, I'm going to do the same thing here, I'm going to multiply these. So I have -2 times 15 is going to be a -30 over 5 plus b, which is going to give me -2 equals a -6 plus b. To get b by itself, add 6 to both sides. Those cancel. I'm left with 4 equals b. So my formula is then y equals my slope, which was -2/5, then an x plus my b, which is 4. Notice these are the exact same. It doesn't matter which way you do it, they will both work. I do, however, want you to be comfortable with point slope, because that will be something that you'll see on your EOC. And last one here. It says Pete sells frozen lemonade at community baseball games. He sells 1 cup for $3 or 2 cups for $5. What will Pete charge for 6 cups if he keeps selling the lemonade at the same price rate? Okay, so I have that he sells 1 cup for $3, which I'm going to write as a point, and that he sells 2 cups for $5. This is going to be my 2 coordinates. So I'm going to, it says same price rate. That rate is the same thing as slope. So I'm going to find the slope with these 2 things. So I have x1, y1, and x2, y2. So slope, we know we find by taking y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And I'm just going to plug in here. So y sub 2 is 5 minus y sub 1 is 3 over x sub 2 is 2 minus x sub 1 is 1. So I have 5 minus 3 is 2 over 2 minus 1 is 1. So my slope is 2. So I'm going to use this and I'm going to plug it into my slope-intercept form. So I have y equals 2x plus b. But I'm going to have to find what b is for this to be my formula. So I'm going to use my first set of points, or my first set of coordinates here, which is going to be 3 equals 2 times 1 plus b. So I have 3 equals 2 plus b. Subtract 2 from both sides. So I'm left with 1 equals b. So I know that my formula is y equals 2x plus 1. And it wants to know how much he'll charge for 6 cups. Well, you can see from the way I wrote my ordered pairs that cups is represented by x. So I'm going to plug in 6 for x. So I have y equals 2. Instead of x, I'm going to put 6 plus 1. So I have y equals 12 plus 1, which is going to give me y equals $13. And that's my final answer. I hope that you've taken good notes and that you have a good night.